UAB taking down Tulsa. Shout out UAB, 31-24 winner over the Golden Hurricane. Shout out Jordan's MTSU Blue Raiders for getting it done 31-24 against New Mexico State, improving to 2-10 on the season. Very nice. Very, very nice.
On the come up.
Yeah, absolutely. They're getting better. They're getting better. Only team out of conference that Tennessee played this year that lost was Syracuse. They lose 34-12 to what was previously a 1-10 Boston College team. Fran Brown making a lot of decisions today in regard to his staff. I wonder if Josh Heupel will follow in that direction. We will see in the coming weeks. But man, I think Syracuse is a team that, despite the fact that they have a good coach, their season just went out the window with the Steve Angeli injury, man.
Man, I've felt so bad for Syracuse this entire season. Like, I was talking to my coworker, I guess it was like a week or two ago or whatever. She's a Notre Dame fan, and I was like, "Hey, who's Notre Dame playing this week?" And she told me Syracuse, and I was like, "Yeah, you guys are gonna have fun with that game." And then I checked the score. Notre Dame like put up like 70 points on them or something like that. I don't remember what the final score was. But man, I mean, Fran Brown, I like you said, I mean, I think he's an excellent coach. It's just so unfortunate, all the circumstances that face him this year, because I think Angeli had potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football this year, and he was leading the nation for a bit. But man, I mean, you could see how important he was to his team when he went down. I mean, because it just rough. Like, they didn't win any like games. Like, how many wins did they have this season? Like 3?
3-9 is what they finished. I think they were I think that was the actual toilet bowl of the ACC this year. Well, Virginia Tech might have also gone 3-9. I forget already, but I think those were the only 2 of 3 teams that had 3 or less wins this season, because I know North Carolina at least got to 4 despite all the shenanigans with Chapel Bill.
Yeah, that was a crazy mess too. And I haven't looked into it, but I saw a graphic online saying that the ACC could potentially miss a chance at the playoffs this year, because apparently like Duke's in there and they're like 7-5. Yes. And then I can't remember what the other team is in there, but that would be crazy if an ACC team didn't make it.
So basically Virginia has to win in order for them to get a chance to get in. Maybe Duke just makes it silly. That whole thing's a mess, man. I know, because Josh Pate does his show every week. He does the Sarah McLachlan special. He didn't even do a matchup this week or a team. He just did an entire conference, and it was the ACC. That poor conference is just so bad now. They have not adapted to conference expansion well. So moving on to these SEC games, which oddly enough, some of them do include ACC teams that we saw over the weekend. Georgia getting it done 16-9 against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech finishes the regular season with 9 wins. I guess that is a team to keep an eye on in the offseason, as that is Tennessee's first big opponent in 2026. Georgia, though, finishes the season with the best overall record in the SEC. They make it into the SEC championship against Alabama for the however many time in the last 15 years. I've lost count at this point how many times those two have played in the SEC championship, even though they have played every now and again in the regular season.
Yeah, it's weird how they've matched up so much. I mean, because you had the East and West back in the day, yet Georgia and Alabama are routinely meeting each other every time, whether or not it was like in the SEC championship or in the playoffs. Like, and it's somewhat became a rivalry as of late, which is kind of weird. I feel like it's kind of akin to Tennessee and Georgia's rivalry, where, I mean, maybe on paper, based on their like most recent results, you could maybe say it's a rivalry, but I don't think either. Well, maybe Georgia fans think it's a rivalry, but I don't think Alabama fans do.
No, definitely not. I'm not going to try and count it up off the top of my head, but
it's got to be rough.
No, Georgia. Yeah, it's a lot now, and Georgia has just been escaping all season against everyone that isn't Alabama, which is so odd because that was a home game. I don't think Georgia trailed after the second quarter in this game, which is kind of wild because considering it was 16-9. I want to say Gunnar Stockton only had like 90 or 70 pass yards. Gonna check my notes here. 70 yards, so not even That's kind of crazy. Georgia Tech is a tough football team, and they've given Georgia trouble the past couple seasons, just trying to get wins in clean old fashioned hate, or as they're now referring to it as the Invesco QQQ Atlanta Gridiron Football Classic. I don't know. It's just silly. Too many words. Too many words in whatever that title is I just said that I don't even want to remember exists.
And that's like a legitimate thing that people are trying to throw around.
Well, that's at least the sponsorship.
Uh,
So their current AD, who was actually a part of Danny White's staff at UT, he has started to push back on the contracts to play all the home games in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. Like they're like one of his big deals is to stop playing games in there, and keep them at Georgia Tech as opposed to going in there. And that's a big reason why Tennessee's playing there next year as opposed to the Mercedes-Benz Dome, which I am a huge proponent of doing that, going to a home environment. I know Georgia Tech is not a phenomenal home environment, but I'd much rather play the game there than in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. Plus, I mean, it's the Bobby Dog Classic. I mean, how can you say no to that? So, but yeah, that's Tennessee's first big opponent next season that Georgia beat. Moving on down here, Ole Miss getting it done 38-19 against Mississippi State. Mississippi State misses out on bowl eligibility, as we discussed, but put a star next to that because we're going to come back to this game in a second, because we have some things to discuss about the future of one of those two teams. Moving on down, Mizzou taking out Arkansas 31-17. This is one of the funniest looking stat lines you'll ever see. Pope Reveal 4 of 7 for 25 passing yards, and Mizzou scored 31 points in this game because they ran for over 300 yards on the ground. Also had a nice punt return touchdown mixed in there. So Eli Drinkwitz finishes the year 8-4 in what was kind of a rebuilding year up there. And Arkansas has made its move. They got Ryan Silverfield, which at the moment kind of feels like the most uninspiring hire. I know everybody else has made moves at this point. Now that they've all happened, I feel like that is probably the most uninspiring hire of all the SEC teams, which I hate it because Arkansas used to be at least a somebody in the SEC football landscape. But like since conference expansion has hurt, I don't think it gets talked about enough how much their recruiting base and where those funds are allocated within the university, how much those have been hurt just here in recent years, and just what appears to be incompetence from the athletics director.
Yeah, and Silverfield, he's the coach from Memphis, ain't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know what to think about that hire, to be honest, but I just don't really expect like too many coaches to be going to Arkansas. And I know I brought this up to you the other day, that weird situation going on where Alex Golesh was initially hired as Arkansas's head coach and then ended up going to Auburn. Like that was a little confusing situation there. That would have been a big time hire for Arkansas if they could have got him. But I mean, I feel like Arkansas has kind of been like one of the more like forgotten teams in the SEC, even though they've been in the SEC for a while. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird with those West teams, man. Like Arkansas, especially Missouri's got to be the weirdest bunch in the SEC in terms of it just looks weird. And then like Texas and Oklahoma now. It's just interesting to see how much things have changed. But good luck with Arkansas with their new head coach. I don't really know much about him, but hopefully he ends up doing something for him, because it'd be nice to see Arkansas be competitive, have another good team in the SEC.
Yeah, the overall record against winning teams is not great for Ryan Silverfield, so I don't think Arkansas fans are ecstatic about that. They also said something, or well, they didn't say something. They tried to stage a Shiano Sunday, or I guess a Silverfield Sunday in their eyes, but failed at doing so. But he has managed to land some recruits within the first 24 hours. I want to say there was like 4 or 5 guys that committed there today. So good for him, I guess. So we'll see what happens to them as his time begins there. Moving on here, the Iron Bowl, Alabama getting it done 27-20 at Auburn. Ty Simpson throws a touchdown pass to Isaiah Horton with 3:50 to go in the game. Auburn's driving with a chance to tie the game late, and they fumbled it away there in the final few minutes to Alabama. And Alabama is the regular season champ of the SEC if you're going off of head-to-heads and tiebreakers and all that fun stuff. They will have to play Georgia in the SEC championship. I am curious to see how the committee treats that game, especially if Alabama loses that game. Like, will they get shuffled out of the playoff race? Are they going to get let in and not get a home spot? I don't think they're going to get a home game anyway, just with the way the college football playoff is shaped out and the fact that they have 2 losses, one of which is a terrible loss at Florida State, which just it looks weirder and weirder by the week. To be honest. But the bigger story from this game is Auburn hiring Alex Golesh just a few hours later on Sunday morning. And this is a guy that will be coaching Auburn in Neyland Stadium next season. And as we discussed before, we know for a fact he will be bringing some former Tennessee assistants with him. Wide receivers coach Cody Burns, who was the first coach before Kelsey Pope was brought in to do the same job. There's at least a couple more. Parker Ball, the former player at Tennessee, he's coming on staff to join. He was at USF with Golesh, but he's joining as well. And then we discussed the possibility of Rodney Garner potentially going back to his alma mater as well. So good hire for Auburn, I guess. I mean, I would say they will probably be akin to Tennessee in that like 8 to 10 win range. I don't know if they'll be competing for national championships. A lot of the same concerns with Golesh at this point, I think, are the ones that you had with Heupel going in. But, yeah, overall, I think it's a solid hire.
Yeah, it'll definitely make for an interesting matchup. I mean, when Tennessee has to go play against Auburn, especially knowing that he's going to know all of Josh Heupel's tricks being on the staff and everything. But, I mean, I think it's a great hire for Auburn, to be honest. And I guess we'll get to see what Alex Golesh is really made of. I mean, because you can catch people slipping when you're at a smaller school like South Florida until you start winning a lot of games. Then teams start to respect you more, start to prep more. But it's going to be a real test for him to see what he does as an SEC head coach. And I hope the best for him because, I mean, he broke. I mean, Tennessee's offense under Golesh was just phenomenal. I mean, statistically the best in 2022, the best offense we ever seen at Tennessee. So congratulations to him for getting a job because I think it's well-deserved. And it'll be interesting to see how it pans out with him in Auburn because if he ends up doing big things there and starts bringing them to the playoffs, I think there's going to be some questioning around Tennessee's fan base, wondering whether or not Alex Golesh was the reason for Tennessee's success during those years. I don't necessarily buy into that, but I mean, you know, that question probably will be opened up if he starts finding some success.
Louisville shutting out Kentucky this week 41-0. That was, at least in the eyes of the administration, the thing that appeared to be the straw that broke the camel's back for Kentucky. Mark Stoops is out of there. And they moved quickly with this hire for an athletics department that does not move very quickly with Mitch Barnhart as the AD. They hired Will Stein, who is the offensive coordinator at Oregon, is a former Louisville quarterback, which is kind of interesting given the fact that he will now be coaching for his rival. We have seen the Oregon offensive coordinator path produce in the past with Kenny Dillingham. So we will see what happens with Will Stein. Maybe it's an underrated hire.
Maybe so. I mean, I don't know much about him, but I thought it was interesting because wasn't it like the day before the game that Mark Stoops was asked about like his future at Kentucky, and he said that he had like no plans on retirement and stuff like that. And then like a day or two later, he ended up getting fired from the school. It was just interesting, like seeing the optics with all of that, because it seemed like he was happy being with Kentucky and everything. And I guess you would be if you're a head coach of the SEC team. But it's just, it's just interesting to see everything that transpired after the fact. I mean, 41-0 to a rival school. That's pretty bad look, especially considering that when's the last time that he's had a pretty successful team with Kentucky? Like maybe around like 2020 or 2019.
21 was the year they won 10 for the second time under him. They had a couple 7-win seasons after that, and they've not made a bowl each of the last two. Again, Kentucky not going to move quickly on coaches. I am a little surprised just given the fact they won games against Auburn and Florida down the stretch, because Auburn and Florida, despite not being good, that's who Mark Stoops generally wins against. But overall, I don't think either party is necessarily upset by the decision. I think Mark Stoops is grateful for his time at Kentucky. I think the Kentucky fans are grateful for him winning 7 to 10 games a year at various points in his career, and they're happy with that. That's fine. But just because that's how that program works. But when a guy's been there for 13 years, it's going to get old after a while. So don't necessarily fault them for doing that. Just a couple more here. Oklahoma going to get done 17-13 against LSU. Isaiah Satania scores from 58 yards out with 4:15 to go in the game, and the Sooners get a stop with the turnover on downs. They're going to the college football playoff. Oklahoma is essentially just a better version of the team that we saw them field a season ago. John Mateer is a more competent quarterback than Jackson Arnold, and that he doesn't turn the ball over nearly as much. But you look at what he did this year. He wasn't always the most productive quarterback. It didn't feel like, but that defense has just been able to be a matchup nightmare. I think that's the kind of team that you see in like basketball tournaments. Tennessee is a great example of this under Rick Barnes, actually, where nobody really wants to play them. But eventually, when you're just thriving off of being a tricky matchup, your luck is going to run out eventually. And I feel like that's what's going to happen with Oklahoma once it reaches the CFP.
Yeah, I mean, their defense has been helping them out significantly throughout the season. I mean, we're talking about one of the best defenses in all of college football in terms of their pass rush and everything like that. It's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing in the playoffs. I mean, considering, if they end up going far, I mean, maybe the old analogy will stay true that defense can win championships. I don't think Oklahoma goes to the national championship, but if they do, it could be a proving point in college football that maybe teams should be putting less focus on having a dynamic offense and more of having a hard-nosed defense, which I think defenses became underrated in like the past decade or so as more teams in the college and the NFL have moved towards passing spread offenses and everything like that. I mean, Tennessee's MO has always been like, we're going to outscore you. But I don't know if that always wins games. I mean, it's nice to have a good defense out there. I mean, you look at what Nick Saban did back in the day is like around like 2010, 2011 times. I mean, you couldn't do anything on those defenses. And if you got a defense that can be that good, then you're going to have a hard time losing some football games.
Yeah. Last one on the schedule, and we alluded to this a little bit earlier. Florida getting it done 40-21 against Florida State, preventing Florida State from going to a bowl game, which is pretty funny because a week earlier they said they were going to keep Mike Norvell around, and they're going to now, but he is going to be on maybe the hottest seat in college football. He worked his way off the hot seat, and it just got even hotter because once that brain trust of Jordan Travis and all those guys left, he was just toast down there in Tallahassee. But I think Jaden Baugh went for 266 rush yards in this game for Florida, which is pretty impressive. He's been one of their more redeeming qualities this year offensively, but obviously that's a phenomenal performance individually. They go out and hire John Summerall to be their next head coach. And this is the guy that a year or two ago Kentucky was looking for once they felt like Mark Stoops was going to not work out for much longer. But they moved a little too slow to try and get him, and Florida got him instead. Just seeing everything that was going on with the LSU Ole Miss situation further west. But overall, I think it's a good hire for Florida, even though they did just go to the G5 school from Louisiana before.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that Florida got to play spoiler in the game. I mean, that's what Tennessee fans were hoping for in the Vanderbilt game. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. But I mean, hey, I don't typically cheer for Florida. Most of the times, I'm I'm just hoping that they're gonna get blown out. But honestly, I was kind of hoping they'd pull up the upset against Florida State this week, just because it's just I like seeing some parity in college football here. But yeah, Summerall, I'm intrigued to see how that ends up going for Florida. I mean, I'm looking at here right now. I mean, he has a pretty impressive record of 42-11, 4 years as a head coach. And has he only been Tulane's head coach this season, or was he there when Brazel was there?
This is year two. I'm not sure he recruited Brazel. That may have been a Willie Fritz thing, but he he took over after being at Troy for a couple seasons where he had done really well. So he had been in the mix at Auburn, and then I think Florida moved on him, and then Auburn ended up getting Golish instead, which could be a more fun thing just because he's not a defensive mind, and they need fun offenses now at Auburn. It feels like.
Yeah, they need something to get that fan base going because it's kind of sad seeing what Auburn's been like these past couple of seasons. I'm waiting for them to become a powerhouse again in the SEC to so we can bring some things back to normal.